Hello everyone and welcome back to day 39 of our Jewel Cichlid fry journey. Let's have a quick recap of what we have seen on day 38. On day 38, we saw how the fry were independent, how they were now exploring different parts of the tank, and even they were more confident in their feeding. On the other hand, you also saw that the parents had taken a kind of a back seat, allowing the fry to practice their independence and intervening only when necessary. At the same time, we also saw some early hints of color among the fry. Now, what are we going to focus today on? Today, we'll explore how their growth, color, and behavior are evolving. And the big question, are they ready for grow-out tanks? Well, what do you think? Would you separate your fry at this stage or would you keep them with the parents for a longer period? Do let us know that also in the comments. So before that, let's begin quickly and see what has changed over the last few days. In terms of growth and appearance, we see that the fry are noticeably larger. They may have grown by a few millimeters from the last time that we saw them. The body is a bit more streamlined, and now we see that some of them are clearly resembling mini jewel cichlids. At the same time, you'll also notice a big difference between the growth of some fry and the rest. There are some who are noticeably larger, whereas the others are almost half the size of the larger ones. So you'll find some also who are quite bold, courageous, and curious, whereas the others that are shy. And we see that the difference in growth is also largely linked to this personality of the fry. The bolder ones, the courageous ones, are the ones that try to get to the food the fastest. As a result, they get the best part of the food. The others are content with the leftovers, and as a result, we see that their size is smaller and much smaller indeed compared to the larger fry. Now, looking in terms of other developments, we see that their fins have become sharper, the body is lengthening a bit, and they are swimming more confidently, more smoothly, and it's also more purposefully. So it's no longer just going around here and there, wandering away, but it's all about, finding purpose. And this is like watching children move from the toddler stage into grade school. They are still young, but the adult form is obvious. So if you have raised fry before, when did you notice the biggest growth spurt? Was it around this time or was it much later? Well, do let us know that also. Now, in terms of color development, so you can see that there are some hints of color, but we should not expect those flashes of reds, green, and iridescent showing among the fry. That will take some time. And not all fry will show color equally. Now, this is possibly because of the early gender differences and also dominance traits. So, once again, we see that color is also linked with personality. The ones that are bolder, the ones that are kind of getting to the food faster, these are the ones that will get the color the fastest because they're getting good nutrition and they're also developing quickly. So they'll get the dominant traits, the dominant color quickly, whereas the others will gradually take time and grow. And in the wild, we see that jewel cichlids use their color to defend territories and attract mates. So therefore, color plays a very important role in their lives, and also it is one of the reasons why they have the name jewel cichlids. It is also the color that makes them one of the most beautiful cichlids in the aquarium hobby. Now, when you look at the behavioral shifts, you know, as of day 39, you can see less of shoaling and more independence. So, what do we mean by this? If you notice them, you'll see them kind of trying to explore things on their own. However, when there is some kind of danger, when there's some kind of emergency, they'll then group together. Even when the lights are turned out, we'll see that these fry will come together. But as the day progresses, you'll see them trying to find their own independence. And that is really important because we see that it will help them in the future to guard their territory and also to find suitable mates. At the same time, the shoaling behavior will help them to defend themselves when they are juveniles. Because as you know, the safety lies in numbers. So therefore, that's also very important. At the moment, what we can notice some early practice for adult territoriality. That is, small mock battles like nudges, short chases, running after each other, etc. These are all preparing them for the adult life. And what are the parents doing? Well, the parents are taking a step back and intervening only when needed. So it's like teens hanging out on their own while the parents watch from the porch. Now, do you think that the parents will completely step away in the next few days or will they stay a bit involved? Well, according to me, I feel that as long as the fry are there, the parents will be there watching the periphery. It's only when the fry are taken away that the parents will think about the next spawn. So that was the case with the previous batch. So therefore, the whole question now comes, about the grow out tanks. And that is one of the questions that we need to address today. But before moving on to that, we can speak about feeding and tank care. Now, the fry are now capable of eating crush flakes, you know, micro pellets, and even daphnia. And as a result, you will also see the feeding competition is much stronger now. So the faster, bolder fry, they grab more. Okay, and as a result, that their growth also increases because of the nutrients that they get. Similarly, now you'll also wonder what about the shy fry? Will they always remain like that? Well, the answer to that is we can do something to intervene and help the situation. So instead of putting food in one spot of the aquarium, as most of us would do, you can now scatter the food in different areas so that the others who are shy, they also will get food. So scattering food will help to reduce bullying among the fry, and it will ensure even feeding. Now water quality is also very important. As the fry are growing, they are producing more waste, and hence there's more ammonia content in the water. So you need to make sure that you have frequent water changes, and most importantly, getting out the debris that are at the bottom of the tank. Now we see that we need to address the main question of today. What are the pros and the cons of the grow out tanks? Basically, what are grow out tanks? They are tanks which you use to, help the fry to grow faster. They basically you separate the fry, put them in a separate tank, possibly one with much larger water volume, and then the feeding also can be adjusted so that they tend to be by themselves and grow. You can also separate the bold and the shy ones into two separate tanks to also help out with their growth. But what's the advantage of doing that? So what's the advantage of moving fry? Firstly, we see that there's more space for growth. Obviously, a larger water volume will ensure that they grow faster because there's more space, and the water quality also is better when the water volume is large. Next, less competition. So if you're separating the bold from the shy, obviously the shy fry will benefit. And it is safer if the parents want to breed again. Now, generally with jewel cichlids, as I already said earlier, they will wait for the fry to grow and only then they begin to spawn again. So we see that that also could be. So if we realize that she's almost there, near to spawning, we may then decide to shift the fry. What are the cons? So the disadvantages is stress. So if you move the fry too early, it could stress them. Okay, and also if your grow out tanks are not properly guarded, it would mean that the fry no longer have the parents to guard them and guide them. So therefore, you can consider grow out tanks only if the fry are big enough and if the competition is rising. Now, would you move them at day 39 or would you wait another week? Okay, so do let me know because that also would help me to, you know, make arrangements for the grow out tank. As of now, I feel I need to keep them at least for another week. So, what have we seen today? So, we have seen growth of this fry into mini juveniles. They're also showing increasing independence, and we've also addressed the pros and the cons of the grow out tanks. Now, day 39 shows us that these fry are on the brink of real independence. Tomorrow, on day 40, we'll dive into how their personalities are shaping bold leaders versus shy explorers, and what that means for their future. So, if you're enjoying this series, hit that like button, subscribe, and share so that you don't miss tomorrow's milestone. So, till then, happy fish keeping.